Welcome to All Creatures Podcast. This is Chris.
And I'm Angie.
And this is green sea turtles giving us hope. We're revisiting them because the last time, when's the last time we did sea turtles as a whole.
Right. That was in 2018. So don't listen to
early
that
days.
one.
It's early days.
I probably had my baby
our...
crying in the background or something. I mean, yeah.
Yes. Audio quality was probably pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, we tried to do them all. We didn't realize we'd be here 7-8 years later covering them. But this gives us so much hope telling the story of the green sea turtle. And that's because the IUCN met this year, and they meet every few years to reclassify animals. The green sea turtle is the winner. They were endangered, and now they've been reclassified as least concern. This species was on the brink of extinction, but because of conservation, and we're going to talk a lot about that today, how did we get those populations back up? What is going on in the ground? It shows you conservation works. This is a huge, huge feel-good story and should make you feel good today, learning about the green sea turtle and how incredible. I just saw one like 5 weeks ago. I was snorkeling. I think I talked about this in a podcast a couple weeks ago. And I counted at least 5 sea turtles that
awesome.
I was able to see, all green sea turtles.
Yes. Yeah. I saw one 1 or 2 years ago in Hawaii off of the Big Island, but it's been a while for me. So it sounds like I need to get back in the water. And I'm just so excited to be here today, sharing the story with everyone. The green sea turtles comeback demonstrates the power of science, legislation, and community involvement to save these endangered species. It's so inspiring, and it offers so much hope for other marine mammals. Like think of the vaquita and the Rice's whale. They're in the Gulf of Mexico, or the North Atlantic right whale. So those are very endangered mammals, marine mammals. So it gives me a lot of hope that if more of these programs and surveillance and just this international team effort we're going to highlight today, of ordinary people and of conservation heroes all mixed together, helping save the green sea turtle. So yeah, we just need to do more of that for more species, and it's super hopeful. And besides, the green sea turtle is amazing. It's huge. It's big. It's green.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about that today. So, and of course, a lot of other fun facts that are just that'll blow your mind, especially when we talk about their migration and how they navigate. So yeah, you'll want to stick around for this, and yeah, hopefully we'll fill you with hope.
The navigation, that one blows me away. But
yeah, I do think I have like 8 slides on that. I will try to make it short.
Yes,
but last week we talked about the ghost bat and echolocation, and I had to nerd out all about that. So today seemed perfect to talk about navigation, basically by the Earth's magnetic force. So there's a little bit of a spoiler alert. Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so crazy. So cool. It's a superpower. And we're definitely going to dork out about that today.
Yeah. Now, to set the scene, I clipped this. There's tons of articles out there describing this with the green sea turtles and their recovery. But this was Inside Climate News. It was by Teresa Tomasoni. Just published this on Halloween, so just a few days ago as we record this. And just to quote her, what she wrote was, for more than 40 years, green sea turtles teetered on the brink of extinction around the world. Their numbers decimated by commercial hunting of the animal for their meat, harvesting of their eggs, and destruction of their nesting beaches as seaside developments took over coastlines. We've talked about this a lot in the podcast. Many have been fatally ensnared in the fishing gear or choked by drifting plastic debris. Yet, despite these threats, decades of persistent conservation efforts have slowly helped reverse the species' decline. Earlier this month, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, IUCN, reported that the global population of green turtles has increased nearly 30% since the 1970s, to a suite of international actions aimed at saving the animals. That is why we're talking about them today. This is a huge win. This is a huge win for conservation. This is a huge win for nature. I know we talked about the challenges. There's still challenges with green sea turtles. We'll talk about that
Yeah.
a little bit today, but it's gonna really dissect down how did we get here? So how did the turtles get to be nearly extinct? And then how are they back to where they're least concerned now and thriving? I mean, like I told Angie, that I saw sea turtles. I was right next to them. Obviously, I don't touch wild animals, but I was observing and I could hear the turtle munching the grass underwater. It was
How
awesome.
cool
And
is that? And if
yeah,
and this conservation keeps up with them, your kids will be able to hear that, your grandkids, your great
yes,
grandkids. And that was what we were close to losing back in the 70s and 80s. And yeah, so it's really
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. All right. Well, let's kick it off. Let's talk about the sea turtle. I think you're right. I think they're bigger than people think, because when you think of turtles, I think of the freshwater turtles that I grew up with in California and Oregon, or seeing at zoos, tiny, but they're big. I mean, the green sea turtles I saw, they're big. And just to start off with the size, okay. The biggest is the leatherback. They're huge, and Angie and I covered them a couple years ago. They are still in trouble, but they can get up to 6.5 feet in length.
That's
That's
crazy
my height.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, way up to 1,500 pounds. So that's 2 meters in length, close to 700 kilograms in weight. That is a big sea turtle, and I have yet to see one because they are so rare. And hopefully I do get to see one day. Sometimes they are spotted off New Zealand. Now, the green sea turtle, it's a moderate size. I mean, some of the other ones are smaller. And then I think it was last year, I saw the leucistic hawksbill turtles, the white ones. They're not albino. They had a little bit of pigmentation. But yeah, that was pretty incredible that the nursery I was at was actually keeping them back till they got a little bit bigger, just to give them a chance of survival. Okay, so they're a little bit smaller. They're like 2 to 3 feet, less than a meter, 150 pounds, where the green sea turtles are 3 to 4 feet in length. Okay, so 1.2 meters, and can weigh 300 to 400 pounds, and that's roughly just under 200 kilograms. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like
yes,
with the length, though, I was thinking it's basically if you hold your hands out, stretch your hands out,
yeah,
it's from
yeah. I
hand to
mean,
hand.
the ones
Or
I saw, yeah,
yeah,
they're
or like the
big.
length of a
Yeah,
smaller yoga mat I read. But the size is a lot though. I mean, that's still a lot of weight. That's bigger than us humans. I mean, definitely. So yeah. I mean, they do stick out like a green thumb for sure. And we'll talk
yeah, yeah,
about why they look the way they do. But yeah, I mean, to me they seem pretty big. But I've never seen a leatherback either, so it's definitely on the bucket list.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, I mean, just to complete the suite, we got the loggerhead turtle, just a little bit smaller than the green sea turtles.
Hmm.
The hawksbill, the olive ridley turtle, that's probably the smallest sea turtle. That's
Yeah.
under 2 feet, uh, less than 100 pounds. Still big. I mean, that's still heavy,
Yeah.
but, for a sea turtle, that's small on the small side.
Hmm.
The Kemp's ridley turtle, okay, just about this little, same size as the olive ridley. And then the flatback turtle, which I'm going to highlight here in a minute, because I always forget about this one. It's only found in Australia, and
Mm.
it's usually around the coast. And so now that's one's on my bucket list. I only don't want to see a leatherback just because that would be incredible, but I do want to see if I can see a flatback turtle.
Yeah, yeah. But when you look at them, the green sea turtle does stand out as far as its unique looks. It has this large, streamlined body with a smooth, heart-shaped shell. Its colors can range from brown, gray, olive, even a blackish tint. And the green sea turtle is often mottled or marbled with lighter streaks or rays. The underside of the shell, which is called the plastron, is much lighter. It's typically like yellow, yellowish white. And the green sea turtle's skin does have this greenish hue to it, which helps inspire their name. But the shell itself is not necessarily always green. And we'll talk about where that coloring comes because it's actually like the fat, and researchers thought it was from their diet. They still think part of it might be, but still a little up for debate with that. But regardless, they do have this greenish hue, which helps set them apart from other sea turtles as well. And the jaw of the green sea turtle is small compared to its body, and it has brown yellow markings and a serrated lower jaw. It is a grazer. It does a lot of, mostly an herbivore, which is very unique for green sea turtles. And we will, I think, knowing between Chris and I, we probably have a few slides to talk about that. And then lastly, they have two large flippers shaped like paddles. And each one has a visible claw, and then two smaller rear flippers. So, darling, a good looking sea turtle. They do have a little bit smaller head compared to some of the other ones, but beautiful, beautiful shell. Uh,
Hmm.
just just a good looking sea turtle, and hopefully now we'll get to see more of them. And so we're all kids and our grandkids and so on.
Yeah, yeah, no, they are gorgeous, and when you see them, you're just like, wow,
Yeah, their shell is
wow,
stunning. I
yeah,
mean, I can see
yeah,
why they were poached, but we don't want to poach them.
yeah. No, 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 no. And just really quick, the flatback sea turtle, that's one I think it gets kind of lost a little bit. Only found in Australia, so I'm just highlighting it here real quick, just for people's general knowledge. It is a sea turtle. It's one of the seven. Found in tropical Australia, southern parts of Papua New Guinea. They rarely go very far offshore, so sometimes 70 kilometers offshore, that's it. So they stay coastal and eat things like crabs and jellyfish and other things like that. So that one's an interesting. It's only in Australia,
Yeah, what's its
whereas
status? Is it endangered as well? Are you likely to see one or not so
no,
much?
I was gonna say it's they are data deficient, and then
Uh,
since you're bringing it up, I was gonna say it towards the end. I mean, because this is such a feel good podcast. I mean, to go from endangered to least concern is incredible. But the loggerhead sea turtle is still vulnerable. The leatherback is vulnerable. Okay, which is good. I think they've got reclassified. Hawksbill, which I did see again, this is in the southern Pacific Ocean at this hatchery, critically endangered. Emps Ridley, critically endangered. Olive Ridley, vulnerable. And then the flatback, we're just data deficient on. So that's where we are on the sea turtles. The green sea turtle, I think when we look at what we've done for them, we're going to be able to turn and do this for the others, we hope. Now, the green sea turtle range is huge. It's
yes.
global, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian Oceans, off Florida, where Angie's at, in the Caribbean, down to
Hmm.
Brazil, over to West Africa, Costa Rica, Ascension Islands, very, very big for nesting. Then the Pacific's massive, right? So you have the parts of Central America, again, very, very critical breeding habitat, all the way across, not so far south as New Zealand, but up the parts of Australia.
Hmm.
Then you go up to Asia, then you go across to the Indian Ocean, India,
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
way over to
Yeah.
Africa. But then that reminded me when I interviewed Sammy Safari years ago, Whitley Award winner, who talked about getting the locals involved in the mangroves and the conservation efforts there. He was
Yeah.
leading the charge, and he was recognized for that on a global stage, working hard in Kenya to
Yeah.
protect sea turtles. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting when I was looking up their range and habitat. Zach was with me, and we're chatting. That's my son, and he's like, "Whoa, they're basically found everywhere near the equator." And I was like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
basically. I
Yeah.
mean, throughout the world, they nest in over 80 countries, and then they live in the coastal areas of more than 140 countries. So it definitely has." Had to be and has to continue to be an international effort to keep their numbers up. But yeah, they do. They love the shallow, warm coastal waters, and their nutrition, of course, a lot of times is grazing on these seabeds and the seagrass. So yeah, I mean, they should be easy to spot with their numbers being up, which will help their conservation, right? If there's ecotourism involved and the local communities where they live are involved.
Well, and you bring up a good point too. The seagrasses, talking about their role in the ecosystem is grazing on these seagrasses, sometimes sponges. I mean, sea turtles as a whole are critical to the ocean. We talk about jellyfish explosion. which is, I guess, good if you're a jellyfish, but not good for the rest of the ocean because it's off balance. That
Hmm.
sea turtles play a key role. The green sea turtles grazing on these grasses, it's critical for that. It's critical for regrowth. I saw it. I heard it. It was
I
and this is
love that
just
you
weeks
heard
ago.
it. Let me
Yeah.
just say, because people ask me a lot of times with like all the herbivores, the land mammal
Hmm.
herbivores, I love the
Hmm.
zebras and
Hmm.
the rhinos, and of course our domestic horses. And I'm like, I just like to watch them eat and listen to
Yeah.
them, that munching
Yeah.
sound. It's like my happy
Yeah.
spot. So it's so cool that you got to hear that with
Yeah.
green sea turtles. And I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, like, why care about green sea turtles? I mean, who doesn't like sea turtles? They're just such an icon, and they're so cool and they're so ancient. Chris will talk about their evolution. But when you think about the green sea turtles' ecosystem role, I mean, Chris nailed it. They are definitely a keystone species, meaning they basically help maintain oceans by supporting the life around them. And for these guys, it's the seabeds mostly. And like I said, they do eat some smaller creatures in the ocean as well and help kind of keep those populations in check. But it's the seabeds and the seagrasses that they're really helping balance, which then helps other fish populations thrive since they're not all overgrown or undergrown. And the fish populations, of course, are crucial for the food webs for the much larger prey. So yeah, and when the sea turtles are grazing, they're helping cycle nutrients from the oceans back to the beaches, which help support shoreline vegetation. And of course, they help support, like I said, the nutrients that are needed in the ecosystems where they live. So I think for me, not only does it give me hope that the green sea population numbers are up, but this makes me think that the coastal seagrass must be doing better. We must be taking better
Yes.
care of that. So it
Mhm.
acts not only like a keystone species, but an indicator species as far as like,
Yes.
oh, okay,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
ocean, not all of it's dying, right? Like there's parts that are doing good. And I think green sea turtles give me hope for that reason as well.
Yeah. I just think there's so much to learn here that what we learn because when we celebrate the wins and you and I have covered species like Przewalski's horses, uh the black-footed ferret, some of these back from the brink, the California condor,
Yeah.
here we're adding another species to that list that just now, just in the last couple of weeks in 2025, when a lot of the environmental news isn't that great, when you get a win like this, you go, wow, okay, how'd we get here?
Yes.
What can we learn from it? I think talking to Toby Nolan a few months ago,
Hmm.
Ocean with David Attenborough, that one outlays what they've done and showing you when you have protected areas in Hawaii or off California or off New Guinea was one of
Hmm.
the areas they looked
Hmm.
at. When humans back off and protect it, the ocean rebounds
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
quickly. And we can learn that and apply it to terrestrial places as well as the ocean.
Well, and it would be interesting too to get either a sea turtle or even more specifically a green sea turtle expert on the podcast and talk to them about ecotourism and the role, because they are such an iconic species. Everybody wants to see them if they're going out snorkeling on some of these boats. So who is doing it right? How do we balance that? Because it's very well known that green sea turtles are so important for cultural education and then ecotourism, this economic value, and these coastal communities that, of course, often experience hardships throughout the world, depending on where they're located. So there's places that are doing it right, and you and I should work on highlighting more of those and talking to
Yeah.
experts about what they're doing, because there's definitely ecotourism that's good and gives back to the community and gives back to the environment or the ocean, and then there's probably some that practices that we should look out for and not support, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. So how do we get here today? But let's do a little bit of a backstory on why the decline was so great with the sea turtles and specifically the green sea turtle. What we do know is, I mean, Pacificus people, indigenous people, we on the coastlines, all of us around the world would catch sea turtles for food. Then mariners, as we Europeans and other peoples traveled the seven seas, they would catch sea turtles all the time, throw them on deck, and eat them. Like eventually eat them, and that's how like the Galapagos tortoises, those were land-based, reptiles that got thrown on boats, but they were part of the diet. So we don't have exact numbers hundreds of years ago, but it's thought that the sea turtle population with the industrial revolution onwards, so like the last 150 years,
Mhm.
we don't have that background number, but we know it's gone down since, like drastically, like 90% in some areas. Like they were almost gone. Like they couldn't find green sea turtles. Overall, globally, they think it's roughly 60% of sea turtle populations were gone overall. Yeah. Like Hawaii. And it's because there's only like 32 sites around the world that they study.
Right.
And yeah, and Hawaii is one of them. We talked about this. Tortuguero in Costa Rica is a very critical one. It's a
Sure.
huge hatchery
Hmm.
in Central America for sea turtles. That one
Yeah,
has, yeah.
yeah. The three largest ones are the Tortuguero at the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica. There's about estimates about 30,000 females nest there per season on average. And then there's the Cola Beach in Mexico. That's 28,000 females. And then the Rain Island on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. So that can have up to 60,000 females during peak nesting time. So those are some of the big ones that obviously conservation is focused on, but there's several others as well.
Oh yeah, throughout the world. But yeah, that's how we monitored the populations in the 1970s. They were classified, in the last 50 years as endangered
Hmm.
because a few more crashes and they're critically endangered, and then a few more after that, they're gone,
Yeah.
like completely gone off the face of the earth, which is horrific. So we were really low populations in the 70s. Overharvesting of eggs, overharvesting of sea turtles, people catching them and eating them, the bycatch in the fisheries, the loss of habitat and degradation, disease, other stressors, that all got turned around. And it makes me think, Angie, of parts of Florida up in the Panhandle. I remember
Hmm.
visiting there many years
Hmm.
ago. And it was like, turn your lights off at night. This is very important turtle habitat,
Yes.
nesting areas. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And so when we look at Florida for green sea turtles, they're actually primarily along the Florida's Atlantic coast. And there's some pretty high nesting densities on some of our barrier islands near like Palm Beach and Broward counties, places we frequent often with the kids. And I'm always really proud of some of the hotels and what they do to try to help educate people that are there, and as far as turning your lights off and all the amazing volunteers that work during nesting season to basically partition off the nest with stakes and little flags, and they ask people to not be within 5 to 10 feet of them. And yeah, and there, you can see them every morning during breeding and the nesting season. These volunteers, and I'm sure there's some that actually work as well, but mostly volunteers going up and down the beaches, like with their population counts and helping educate all the peoples on the beaches. And
And that's global. Like that
mhm,
is a global effort
mhm,
that is
yes.
going on in the United States, in Mexico, in Central America, in Africa, in Australia.
Well, like Costa
Yeah.
Rica, like that's like a whole thing. Like that's
Mm,
what they're that whole
mm,
region um on the Pacific, like the northwest Pacific side. I mean, that's what they're like known for.
mhm.
And they have a lot of ecotourism for that purpose and a lot of researchers and a ton of protection.
Yes.
So, yeah, it feels good. It does.
Yeah. And that's how, that all of that effort
Mhm,
by all of us. And
mhm.
and and it just, what makes it amazing is sea turtles are, and Angie will talk about this in reproduction, long generation intervals. These are long-lived animals. They don't reproduce quickly like fish or some of these other species that can rebound relatively quickly.
And not allow
It's a
their offspring
long,
make it to adulthood either.
yeah,
Ugh.
one in 1,000. So we'll talk about that too. So that's what makes it just when I heard this and I told Angie, I said, okay, we have to cover this. This is
Yeah.
so heartwarming. This is
Yeah.
so incredible. We have to cover the green sea turtles and tell their story because it it it's been an incredible effort. So, the conservation, Angie talked about protection of the nesting beaches and their eggs. So that around the world has helped them big time. And Angie talked
Yeah.
about in Costa Rica. Yeah, that's been a
Mhm.
big part of uh, their
Yeah,
effort. And
policy is part of it.
mm,
I mean, you and I like to stay out of politics because blah, we're
yeah,
like the science nerds and stuff. But
yeah,
no, policy is really, really important. And been a lot of protection of green sea turtle in general, protection of where they nest on the
hmm
beaches. And so that's helped. There's been international treaties and laws that have helped stop commercial hunting for turtles and
hmm
their meat and their shells. And then, yeah, this community engagement, like local community engagement, are just really helping power sustainable ecotourism and stewardship and just education. Like I said, the volunteers that would want to talk about sea turtles either at the hotel or on the beach, and it's working.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And of course,
Turn the lights
science,
off at
right?
night. Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
you and I, as
yeah,
scientists with our
yeah,
background, we are data driven. And sometimes there's data deficient populations out there. But in general, I do like when science and numbers can help drive conservation so we know what works and what doesn't work so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I
yeah,
think with the green
yeah,
sea turtle, this long term monitoring has really allowed to track populations in different regions. So, Chris will touch on it. Not every population of green sea turtles is great depending on their region. So, but we know that because of science and because of volunteers and tracking. I mean, they have data for, I mean, 50 years, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
so yeah, and there's just been a lot of movement and progress and education outreach, which Chris and I are doing today to shout from the top of the roofs, like it's working, like but we need more of it, right, to keep it going. Or
Yeah, yeah,
as Chris mentioned, for some of the other species of sea turtles that are still on the endangered or critically endangered list.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
hmm
Well, I mean, the one in Costa Rica has been called one of the greatest marine conservation success stories because
hmm
they've turned it around there. So that
yes,
was that's a big part of it is protecting the nesting areas and going out and reducing bycatch. So that means turtles getting caught up in fishing nets or trawlers, modifying fishing gear. Uh, parts of the United States, other countries have regulated that. So there's a bunch of international treaties on fishing gear to limit or reduce, hopefully eliminate sea turtles getting caught. This has been a international effort. I mean, protecting their critical habitat on the reef. That's been a big one. Rehabilitating these seagrass meadows. That has been a
yes,
big thing. Yeah.
hmm
So one of the things is runoff, and I talked about this in Queensland is still an issue, but running off into the reef and killing the reef, killing these seagrass beds. So that's been a big thing. There's a project, World Wildlife Australia has been pushing rivers to reef to turtles.
ah, nice,
So yeah, they're trying to tackle that. And by doing all of this, we have seen, getting the community involved, community engagement and citizen
yes.
science. Angie's mentioned ecotourism.
hmm
All of that has led to the green sea turtle being reclassified. It's taken a lot of different strategies, I
Mhm.
think, because we
Mhm.
talk about conservation. What we've
Mhm.
learned over these
Mhm.
years is it's gray. It is difficult. It's not one thing, not one silver bullet. But by combining all these strategies, we've turned the tide for them.
Yeah, and we'll touch
And
on it.
yeah, yeah,
We'll touch on it towards the end of the podcast of like what you
yeah,
can do
yeah,
in your local community to actually help sea turtles because not everybody lives on the coast. But one thing you can totally steal from me, and it's so fun, is every time you're at a store and they offer you a plastic bag, say, no, thank you, save the sea turtles. And they look at you and then they remember, like, oh, yeah, that's right. Like plastic bags. Sometimes some turtles think they're jellyfish. We know that green sea turtles eat primarily the seagrass, but it just gets their brain thinking. Or a lot of times people will try, waiters and waitresses will try to give me a straw. I bring my own. So I'm like, no, thank
Mhm.
you. Save the sea turtle. And they
Mhm.
always look at me like I'm a little bit weird when I say it. And yeah, man, right on. That's really cool.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
necessarily need to like
yeah.
change or influence everyone, but if you can get one person just to think a little bit differently or think before they consume this excess plastic that's so unnecessary. Yeah, so that's just my line. And it's my kids are like, Mom, I think they're at the age where I embarrass them a lot, not just from that.
Sorry, that's fine.
But I'm
Yeah,
hoping that
yeah.
they'll end up using it too, because it really is powerful.
No, Angie, that's all incredible. And then, their population has increased roughly 30% around the
Yeah,
world.
since the
Yeah, yeah,
1970s. So in our
yeah,
lifetime. Yeah, it's
yeah.
exciting. It's great.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And then just to leave you with this, talking about conservation, it takes patience. What it really made me think of is Jane Goodall. I know we talked about her last month and her passing, and it
Yeah.
still sucks. It
Yeah.
still hurts to lose her. But in her last interview, she talked about small steps do scale up. They absolutely do. And your actions matter. Sometimes you don't think it does, but it really does. When all of us do it, and this is coming from Jane Goodall too, it starts to make an impact. So because of these small efforts around the world at multiple sites, multiple countries, thousands and thousands of people, the green sea turtle now is back from the brink. So
Yes.
that's incredible.
It's swimming free and in the ocean. Yay.
All right, so now we'll jump into evolution. Reptiles, 12,400 species now. One of the oldest orders of vertebrates, only beat out by fish and amphibians. I mean, reptiles came before the dinosaurs, we're, our lineages go back through them. And within the reptiles, it's roughly 7,000 lizards, 4,000 snakes, 360 turtles and tortoises, 27 crocodilians, one, I'm putting you on the spot, one order
Mm.
that we've covered.
The marine iguana.
No,
Oh,
no.
okay. I was
That's
already, I was like, yeah,
no,
I should
they
listen to
would
the
fall
full
into lizards.
question. Okay.
Okay, this is its own order.
Mm-hmm.
Very special reptile. My herpers out there all want to see one day.
The Komodo dragon.
No, I get
Oh.
to see it every now and
Oh,
then.
oh, you're this is you sent Zachary a stuffed animal, the
Yes.
tuatara.
Yes. So it's very special, very unique. New Zealand, the only one in this order that people can't believe is still around. I mean, you're
Sorry,
talking 80
reptile friends.
million.
Sorry that took me so long. I do mammals. What can I say? People are probably screaming
Well,
at their,
unless
like, at me.
honestly, Angie, I didn't know what a tuatara was till I moved here, so it's okay.
Touche. Touche.
Yeah. But they are cool, and that was a fun episode. The order is Testudens, so this is the turtle tortoises. We talked about that. 340-ish turtles.
We got our
Is that
work
about
cut
right?
out for us. I don't think we've covered that many.
I said over 360, so yeah, about 330 turtles, 330 turtles and about 30 to 40 tortoises, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, my herpers. Just send us an email. Give us 5-star reviews on iTunes, all that stuff. But
Please.
just send us an email if we got it wrong. We're having a joke about a review we got recently. We covered all the different sea turtle species, right? So the family is Cheloniidae, and the genre of green sea turtles is Chelonia or Colonia, and then Colonia mitis. Now, again, we know turtles are ancient. I mean, the first turtle-like animal we got was 230 million years ago with interlocking plates, with that bone that grows the shell. Yeah, so
Well, and I talked about it last week in the Ghost Bat about how, for fun, you should
Yeah.
Google a bat
Yeah.
skeleton because it'll really surprise you with their super long phalanges or their digits. It just looks fun and creepy.
I put it on YouTube too at that spot.
Okay,
I
good,
made
good,
it a
good.
super long picture. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I love skeletal anatomy. I'm just an anatomy nerd. But anyways, I don't know. I think I found that the green sea turtle skeleton was actually cooler than the bat.
Okay,
Very,
okay. We'll
very
have to see. Yeah.
interesting looking with the shell and the carapace underneath. Yeah, and then of course their flippers they have the digits in their flippers as well. So yeah, it's a fun skeleton I think to look at.
It's just biology is nuts, and
Yeah, well
then
that exactly.
yeah,
Hmm.
and I mean, you're talking an animal that survived multiple mass extinction events.
Right. Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Their
yeah,
anatomy has gotten so much right throughout the years because they've
yeah,
made it this far. And I'm
yeah,
always so impressed by that.
yeah. So yeah, you're 260, 250 million years ago. You're finding fossils.
Crazy.
210 million years ago. So that's still that's that
It's crazy.
we can't appreciate that
No.
space of time.
No.
Like, we can't appreciate that. 50 million years till you get a fully developed shell, no teeth, looks like a modern turtle, has a longer tail, small spines. So that's 200 million years ago. Sea turtles date back about 150 million years ago, where they were the freshwater or land turtles going into the oceans. And Colombia is a big place where they find them. It reminds me of Angie, and I think these ones lived much earlier from us than this. But when they had Titanoboa at the Florida Museum of Natural History, when
Hmm.
I was professor there with you, and do you remember going in there seeing that Titanoboa, and then they had the big turtle on the wall
Yes.
that was
Yes.
like as big as the ceiling, like as
Oh, yeah.
big
It's
as
humongous. Yeah.
yeah, it was like 10 to 15 feet wide. It was just huge. And they had these huge turtles back then with this huge snake, Titanoboa. And they found all that in Colombia.
We need this movie to be made. Come on, AI. What
Yeah.
are you doing? Quit it with
Hey,
the.
I've got an interview coming up where it's in
Oh,
the
good.
talks.
Good. Good.
Yeah, new season of a show that is looking at, I think they listen to us because it is jumping ahead from dinosaurs to some of these fantastical creatures. So
Okay.
should have that
Cool.
interview out in a few weeks. Yeah, we'll see. It's
Good.
in the
Good.
works. It's in the works.
Yeah. I just think it'd be so interesting to see more of that visually.
It's really crazy. Okay, so one of the things I always ask is how I've been on this kick lately on how these animals survived the fifth mass extinction. Like, how did sea turtles survive this?
Some of the animals you said last week went underground,
Yes,
that type of thing.
burrows and yeah,
So they
praying
just stayed in the
mantis.
ocean. They just
Yeah,
hid in
yeah.
the ocean.
But you remember this when that meteor hit the Yucatan Peninsula, it
It changed the
superheated the
climate.
Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all large non-avian dinosaurs were toast. A lot of the dinosaurs, swimming reptiles
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
Marine
That's
iguana is
true.
the one you brought up. That's a exception. You had this global wildfires. The ocean was cooking, but sea turtles are flexible, varied diets. They could eat the detritus, the things that were dying and filtering
Yeah.
down. They could dive deeper or find caves, places where they could be sheltered for a little while. Jellyfish, crustaceans, or carrion, things that would have died that they could have got or survived. So their flexible feeding, their survival
Yeah.
mechanisms allowed them to survive that. Low oxygen needs, all of that worked in their favor because that was just crazy. It was just 75% of all species died out, but sea turtles survived. They
Yeah.
were one. So yeah. Now
It's
when we
hard to
look
imagine.
at the sea turtle divergence, we covered this in the leatherback because that one just went 110 million years ago, went off on its own, which is nuts. And hardshell sea turtles started their own family line. Loggerheads went off about 50 million years ago. Green sea turtles diverged on their own about 40 million years ago.
Okay.
Then the
They're like,
hawksbill.
I'm gonna try this plant thing out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
30
see
million years
how
ago.
this goes. Mm-hmm.
Then the flatback about 10 to 15 million years ago say, "Oh, Australia's pretty nice. I'll stay here, mate. Thanks. It's
Yeah.
nice and warm and no,
Can't
not
say
that
I
many.
blame them, right? I mean, my goodness.
Yeah, but it's like they're ancient. These are when you go see a sea turtle, wherever you are, they are ancient lineage. They've been around a long time. That's again why this story is so heartening. You're looking at an animal that has ancient relatives go back 260 million years, and the species has been around for about 40 million years. There's been it's obviously over the last 40 million years has changed somewhat, but not a
Sure.
lot, not much,
Right. Well, and like
not
you said,
much.
they figure out how to survive the fifth mass extinction, and then of course us humans come along, we dominate the planet, we slaughter them, and they almost die off. And then us humans get together and say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, we got to fix this," and we were able to. Like that's the cool stuff, and that's what we need to see more of. That's what we need to do more of. We need to celebrate that more.
Okay, life cycle. Sea turtles, again, long lives. Green sea turtles
Yeah.
think upwards of 80 years. Some people think 100 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a long, long time. I have no idea how old the sea turtles I saw were.
Yeah.
They could have been younger, or they could have been 80, 90 years old. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and most other sea turtles live that long, roughly. And so long lives. They cruise around the oceans, 2 miles an hour, 3.5 kilometers per hour. They can burst, which I'm going to talk about how they evade predators a little bit later in the podcast. Sea turtles can't retract their limbs. So,
Right.
unlike other
A land
land
turtle.
turtles.
Yeah, because of course all like my boys love finding box turtles or painted turtles. We stay away from those snappers.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
But
Jeez.
for obvious reasons. Actually, that's not true. I've helped several crossroads before, but I know how to pick them up, and they're not very big, and I don't let my kids pick those guys up. But yeah, of course the box ones are super fun because they just go in their little shell, and they the carapace kind of closes up, and they're safe. But yes, sea turtles do not have that ability, and that made them very vulnerable to
Yeah,
human
predators.
predators. Yeah.
Humans and sharks, like you'll
That's true,
see.
yeah. Or when they're younger, right? When they're
Yeah,
smaller. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, yeah, they're just incredible. Incredible. Diving, this is one of the things, because we did see one a few months ago on holiday, and I was in Fiji, and Pip saw it, and I briefly saw it, and then we waited
Because
and
your life is
waited,
that
and
hard here in Fiji.
it's, hey, I could go
And
on
I'm
vacation.
totally teasing, and I love when you go places and send me photos and getting. Well,
Bula
I mean, you're
bula.
out. Well, it's so good to see what else is going on in other parts of the world, especially when it comes to wildlife and the
Yeah,
oceans.
I'm a big believer in travel and experiencing different cultures, and Fiji. I haven't talked a lot about Fiji, but oh my God, it's just one of the best places on earth. The people are the kindest, nicest, most welcoming. Just I could talk all day about Fiji, but
I
we're
know.
in Fiji, and we're, the reef I think looked okay, much better than the Great Barrier Reef that I saw recently.
Okay.
And we were kayaking, and Pip was like, "Oh, there it is!" And I looked, and I just barely saw it. And it was really dense seagrass where we were at. Waited and waited and waited, and it never came back up. And I was like, "Dang it!" Because they can hold their breath for hours if they want to.
Yeah.
Now, normal dives are 5 to 30 minutes while they're munching on that grass. Yeah, one measured over 5 hours.
Crazy.
How do they do that? Well, we'll talk about it. Slow metabolic rate and their ability to store oxygen efficiently. I think we covered it in another sea turtle podcast, so we don't have to go too much into the physiology. But that's the highlight, is they're able to store oxygen better in their body tissues, especially their muscles, so they don't have that urge to breathe like us. We're underwater and we start going, and we got to jump up and breathe because our body and muscles are saying, I have no oxygen. You're going to die if you don't breathe. Well, sea turtles, they don't get that feeling for a long time.
Gotcha.
Most while they're feeding, and this is what I observed on the Great Barrier Reef, was, shallow. They'll go down for a few minutes, eat some grass, and come up and breathe. And I'll post that on YouTube. I posted on our social media when I was there.
Yes, please do.
Of the sea turtle coming up, breathing. But again, they can rest for 2 to 5 hours. And it's good for them. They're hiding from predators, and that's where they sleep.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's what they do. That's what they do.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, talking about the slow metabolism, good oxygen storage, large lungs, anaerobic resistance or tolerance. So, yeah, they don't develop lactic acid as much.
Yeah, that's
And
what makes you feel sore after a good workout.
yeah, yeah. Before I turn you loose on migration, because that kind of leads into behavior, right?
Sure.
And
Hmm.
feeding. We talked about eating seagrasses. One thing I wanted to look at that we didn't cover in a previous podcast with sea turtles is survival. And this again plays a role in conservation. So the moment they hatch, and we've all seen that race to the sea
They're
where the
so
sea turtles are
tiny.
they're the
Yeah.
most
Their
adorable
little
things. And
flippers.
they're all running to the sea, and you watch all the shows, and you see the birds come in and land predators come in and pick it off. And generally 1 in 1,000 will make it. I mean, the
Crazy.
ghost crabs, the lizards, everything's getting one of those little sea turtles, and it breaks your heart. And then you see the one that makes it to the ocean. You're like, go, little buddy, go. And still out in the water, there's going to be sharks and other
Yeah.
things that can eat them.
So much stuff. Hmm.
And I feel like this is a good point to bring up these hatcheries, because if only 1 in 1,000 are making it, I thought, well, we have these hatcheries where they're collecting the eggs and incubating them, hatching them, and then releasing them directly in the water. Is that shifting? Is that playing a role? And they think, instead of 1 in 1,000 making it, 2 or 3 in 1,000 will make it. So,
I mean, that's
you
better.
know, that's it. But when there's so long living, Angie, that adds up. It's cumulative, right? Like when you double the survival rate or triple the survival rate, that is going to help them regenerate quicker. And the other thing it made me think of was, I remember this from early on when we covered sea turtles. The problem with climate change impacting sea turtles is how those eggs incubate. The temperature's going to dictate the sex of whatever hatches, right?
Yes, yes, the physiology of the actual clutch of eggs that the female lays. And we'll talk about that when we get to repro. Yeah, and green sea turtles, and I think for all sea turtles, the the turtle sex of the offspring is determined by the nesting temperature, where warmer nests, so if they incubate at a warmer temperature, that will produce females, where nests incubating at cooler temperatures will produce more males. So it is not a 50-50 male to female ratio unless there's like a perfect temperature, which researchers think that that's either between 28 and 30 degrees Celsius or 82 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. They call that basically the pivotal point for a 50-50 spread, which can be problematic if there are too many males or females born. And with climate change, the climate is warming. I think it's something like 99.8.
Oh, you can't even argue against it. If you're at
Thank
this
you.
point in the podcast, you can't argue against it.
Right.
The
Okay.
climate is getting warmer.
Okay.
Everybody recognizes that. Even people that deny climate change is caused by
And
humans, they still recognize it's getting warmer.
right. And I think we should also use the caveat. Of course, there's been climate change historically for
Yeah.
millions of years for other reasons. The climate is warming because of man-made pollution. So
And it's
that's
warming at a rate that the animals can't adjust.
correct.
So
Correct. So
that's
those are just little sidebars.
that's the
We've gotten
concern.
some
Yeah.
letters before, so I just want to make sure that it's
Yeah.
like this is man-made. Anyways, so because of that, the sand is warming, right? I mean, it's hotter than it has been, and this is causing the feminization of some population of sea turtles, where they may have over 80% of females born in a clutch that a female lays. So that's problematic. Well, why is it problematic? Well, it's problematic because a skewed sex ratio means that too few males can reduce genetic diversity and threaten population survival in the long term, right? As Chris mentioned, these guys can live up to 100 years, not 80, 90 years on average. So time after time, having more females and less males to breed with can mess up the genetic pool. And so, anyways, it's something that researchers are keeping their eyes on. It is something that they are concerned about. And this is where something like a hatchery could come into play with that. And it's also why we like to push on this podcast, or at least discuss on this podcast, climate change, what we can do to our own little part to help reverse it. And of course, educating ourselves about it, and then voting with our dollar and voting for policy that are green. So yeah, it is something to consider, and it is potentially problematic.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's where like the hatcheries, again, helping on survival rates, and then also helping on that sex ratio, because it's a huge ocean out there, and one male can't breed multiple females, right?
Right,
So
and plus too, we'll talk about this, but they males mature slowly. They might be 25 to 40 years old before they're actually producing offspring. So it can really just screw everything up if there's just not enough males around.
well, and you want the male to be fit and
Mhm.
strong and healthy to
Correct.
pass on those good genes.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So, but there's a
So
lot of other
yeah,
stuff
but
going on. It
yeah,
depends on, this the sex ratio can depend on the nest depth, the shade, the sand color, where it rain falls. So yeah, it's something we definitely need to keep our eyes on, and
yeah,
continue to monitor it to figure out, well,
yeah.
are the sea turtles addressing this? Maybe they're shifting further north to lay their eggs, or what are so it's interesting to say the least, and something to keep an eye on. And that's where hatcheries, I think, are going to play a vital role moving forward. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, especially these other species. Okay, when they're adults, how do they get away from some of these other predators? Not many. Tiger sharks, that's their number one. That's the one. I've seen some videos of sea turtles that, the tiger shark's trying to get it, and it keeps, showing its back to it.
Hmm.
So the tiger shark's having a really difficult time trying to catch it. But those jaws can bite through turtle shell. That's why sometimes you see turtles missing a flipper or a bite out of them with sharks. Saltwater crocs, so Australia and Asia. Orcas sometimes might catch a sea turtle. Maybe reef sharks might go after the juveniles, but small adults. So, but man's the biggest one, like
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah.
They're the ones. But like I said, if a big shark's come in, they're very quick. They have that burst,
Hmm.
35 miles an hour. They'll dive really quick, hide under coral or hide in the seagrasses, or they will, you know, give them the back of that shell. So
Yeah, and their vision is
yeah,
adapted for sea life. The green sea turtle sees in the blue-green spectrum. They're nearsighted on land, but they visually can definitely tell when a predator is coming near them. And like Chris said, use those front flipper paddles to help them fly through the water to get out of
yeah,
the way
yeah,
when
yeah.
possible.
All right, so I want to ask you how they drink water. That's
Oh.
one cool fact always
Hmm.
about them. But what they eat when they're young: jellyfish, small crustaceans, plankton, fish eggs, mollusks, anything that they can really eat. Juvenile green sea turtles will still eat some jellyfish, some small invertebrates, but some algae. Subadult, adult, that's where they start going to the seagrasses. I mean, they
Gotcha.
might eat a lot of these invertebrates every now and then, but generally they're just eating seagrasses, and that's
Okay,
what
so when
their
they're
digestive
younger,
system.
that's where they're more omnivorous, and then
Yeah,
as
yeah,
adults, they switch over to being more of an
the
herbivore.
grasses. Yeah,
That's what
yep,
I'm doing.
yeah. It's a good way
Definitely.
to
I
live.
am
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
I just need to be a vegetarian 90% of the time, because
yeah, yeah,
95% of the time I feel that
yeah,
much better. And so,
yeah,
yeah, I eat very, very little meat. And if I do, it's usually just seafood. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like a sea
yeah.
turtle.
Yeah, but they do absorb water and then they excrete it through those special glands, right? I remember that.
Yeah, they have
Yeah,
basically these really cool salt glands near their eyes, and it helps them remove excess salt from their bodies. So some people have said that it looks like the sea turtles are crying, but it's really them shedding excess salt from their body. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, super
All
cool.
right, let's talk migration behavior, some
Hmm.
things that are worth revisiting with this species, because
Yeah.
how they know to come back to the beaches they were born on,
Yes.
how do they navigate the planet, and for anybody that's been swimming, right? Like you were a swimmer,
Oh, yeah. Still am.
but out in the ocean, when you pop your head up and you've got waves, you have no idea where you're at. Like you have
Oh,
no
no,
idea.
for sure not. I mean,
Yeah, it's
I should
disorienting.
have clarified. I am a lap swimmer in a pool.
but no,
That's what I
but no,
am.
you've dove,
Oh,
you've
yes, yes,
snorkeled in
yes. No, I've
Hawaii
spent
at
a lot of time in the
night. Yeah,
ocean. It's
yeah.
very disorienting and disorientating. In fact, I actually signed up for a sprint try, uh, and it was last month. I couldn't do it because I hurt my shoulder like a ding dong. But I was actually a little nervous because it is an ocean swim. It was over on the Atlantic coast, and I was like, "Ooh, maybe I should start with one that's in a pool, just to because it's that much easier." Like I'm a really strong swimmer, but in the ocean, it's a whole different beast, and some of it's just being exhausted in the elements, but a lot of it's too, yeah. Like where am I going? Who's running over me? What is
Oh, the
happening?
currents. Yeah,
All
it's
of that.
tough. Yeah,
And yeah, and
yeah.
that's the sea turtle just spends her life out there, except for the female when I'll talk about that when she's nesting. But they spend their whole life in the ocean, right? Green sea turtles, and they migrate thousands of kilometers, miles back to the beaches to lay eggs. And this process is called natal homing. So they know where they were born, which is why it's so important to save these big nesting sites like we talk about in Costa Rica and Mexico and Australia. There's several, but it's wherever a sea turtle is born, that's where they, male or female, but that's where the area where they'll come back to breed. And that's the area where the female will haul out, lay her eggs, and then head back out to the ocean. So I mean, my question is, okay, with migration, we have tons of other land animals and ocean animals that migrate, but how do they do it? Well, this natal
It's
homing
insane. Yeah.
fidelity, it's basically been shown through tons of data. Satellite tracking research and genetic studies show that female green sea turtles consistently return to their birthplace to support both their genetic and reproductive success. And they have route accuracy in that these turtles follow precise routes, and they basically will correct their course to stay on track in these long, long ocean distances. So they know where they're going whenever their hormones tell them it's time, they know which way they're going. And, so like, how do they do this? Well, is that's basically like was what I honed in on. And so there's multiple navigation cues that are internal for these sea turtles, but basically the green sea turtle relies on what's called a geomagnetic map that's paired with local cues such as some chemical signals, and that helps them find their natal birth beach. But it's not quite that simple. So I'm like, okay, well, that's good. Like, what is this magnetic reception or how does that work? I mean, everybody should know how magnets work, but basically, green sea turtles use a special sense called magnetoreception, and it helps them navigate these oceans. And it's like having your own internal compass and map. And from a biological point of view, it's Chris. If you don't know us already, we love cells. we
Hmm, hmm.
we like the biochemistry class to learn about cells and receptors and what hormone binds to what receptor and all this and learning about all the different types of cells. Yes, we're nerds like that. So I'm like, what is the biological basis for this? And basically, there's physical and cellular structural structures that are responsible for this magnetoreception, but it's not fully understood. So there's evidence that supports that probably within the brain of the sea turtles, they have magnetic minerals like magnetite that help these specialized cells to interact with the nervous system, to then interact with the musculature system, all this stuff. So the sea turtles basically use these internal magnetoreception cells, which we don't know a lot about, to sense the Earth's magnetic field. Can you do that, Chris?
No. I'm,
No,
the thing,
no,
yeah, no, not like
no,
that.
no. And for those of you that aren't super familiar with the Earth's magnetic field, it's basically this invisible field that's magnetized that surrounds our planet like a giant bubble. In every location where I'm at here in Florida, where Chris is at in New Zealand, they have their own unique magnetic signature made up of a different intensity or strength. And then that's dependent on the inclination angle or the tilt of the field lines. Once again, my mind's
Which
blown. I
we use compasses, right? We
Correct.
learned to use compasses to point north of 360 degrees, but that's it. We
Yeah.
don't do that internally. We use
No, no, and I'm going to get
yeah.
there. I mean, yeah, yeah, wait for it because basically what the sea turtles are doing is they have a magnetic map that helps them sense this magnetic field strength and an angle for different geological locations because I guess it feels different. But then they also have a magnetic compass that helps them determine which direction, like north, south, east, or west. So it's like a twofold system the way that it works as far as researchers know to date. And what happens is when those little sea turtles are born and they're crawling over the sand and sprinting towards the ocean to not get picked off by predators, and we've seen it in all the major like BBC movies and stuff like that where you're just like, oh my god, they're so cute. When they're doing that, the turtles are imprinting on the magnetic signature of the beaches where they were born. And then, of course, later on as reproductive adults, it helps them come back to the same spot to lay their own clutch. So, and another new segment that I like to call, well, what if humans had this magnosense?
Yeah.
What would that be like? Because we talked about the ghost bat last week, right? And how what
Mhm.
echolocation would be like. Because once again, that's super sense that us humans don't have at all. I mean, we can hear, but we definitely cannot feel echoes in the dark that give us a mental map of an image, and then we're able to fly around it. That's just doesn't happen. So similarly, if you were a sea turtle, it would feel like you always know which way is north, south, east, or west, even with your eyes closed or in total darkness. Even if somebody like spun you around in a circle, you basically could sense these magnetic landscapes in different places. So, of course, if I go to New York, I see the Statue of Liberty. If I go to Disney and I see the Epcot ball, these are structures that we see with our eyes that we recognize. Well, the sea turtles basically have a sense of these magnetic points, and you feel them inside you versus visually seeing them.
Yeah.
About a superpower
Well,
that they've
I mean,
evolved
that's
that they evolved
yeah,
for
yeah,
millions and
yeah,
millions of years. Like they never feel lost. I mean, that I'm very blessed to travel to many different countries, and I've been I've been lost a lot,
yeah, yeah.
especially because I grew up. I I mean, I'm a Zennial. I'm Gen Z.
You're Gen X. Just
Chris gets
accept
so
it.
mad at this. I'm like X, but I have a little bit of
You're an X.
millennial.
You're
So what do they
X.
call us? They call us Zennials or something. But at any rate, I grew
Yeah.
up without a phone. I mean, I remember having the Atlas Roadmap, and then it was a big deal when we had what were the printout ones? Quest, remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. Or
And now, of
Yahoo.
course,
Yeah.
we have our phones. But I even still get lost with my phone, don't you? I mean, with the
Well,
map on
yeah,
my
yeah.
in
But
real time.
imagine if for those that travel, and that's why I like to travel because it
Yeah,
really does expand you
it
as a
does.
person,
Yes, yes.
and especially traveling outside the U.S. and experiencing different cultures, and um, but it is disorienting when you go to a new country, especially a country that doesn't speak your language. And it's like I've been to Egypt, and back when I went to a conference there, or all over Europe, uh, Papua New Guinea, all these incredible places, and you do get disoriented. And I couldn't, if unless I watched the sun for a while, or I knew it was a time of day and I could see where the sun is,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. If it was at night, I'd have no idea which way was north, south, east, west. No clue
Yeah.
whatsoever.
And
You
mind
know,
you, but could you do it with your eyes closed? Even that?
no, no,
Right.
no, no,
That's
no, no,
what,
no, no, no,
that's
no.
what's so
Yeah,
crazy. I mean, yeah, they basically never feel lost. They have like this internal sense. And so if that's not a superpower of why we should help save green sea turtles,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think you can be convinced because to me it's just so incredible. And like I said, researchers are still learning more about it, which is super exciting. I mean, because I was like, okay, from mammal physiology, I'm like, well, what part of the brain is it? The occipital lobe or the frontal
yeah,
lobe?
yeah.
And then as far as I could tell, and maybe if there's a turtle specialist out there, please let me know if I'm wrong. But as far as I could tell, that there's no confirmed specialized organ or part of the brain dedicated solely to these magnetoreceptors. So they think it's a combination of, several anatomical structures and the nervous system that can help basically integrate all of this input that then like they said, these tracking satellite studies, I mean, they'll see a turtle start to veer off course. Maybe it's like a storm or something. And then they boop, 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 go back right on course to their home.
Crazy.
So it's
It's
fun.
nuts.
It's
Yeah.
it's super fun.
Well, I think,
Uh
yeah, I mean, there are some projects out there tagging turtles and watching the
yes,
migratory
absolutely.
routes. But yeah,
Absolutely.
like across the Pacific, it's a couple thousand miles, and they do log them going back and forth, coming back to Australia or New Guinea and Costa Rica. Like they don't go just 100 miles and circle back. I mean, they're going 1,000 miles, a couple thousand miles. Like it's incredible these distances they travel.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
so it's exciting, honestly.
yeah, yeah.
Um And then, yeah, to find each other or to communicate, they're mostly green sea turtles are mostly solitary, of course, except for when they're breeding. But they do have body language and stuff, and they're fun. They are fun to watch if you ever get to spend time snorkeling with one or see one at an aquarium. But they have flipper movements and blinking, and they'll bob their head, and they get a little more active when during courtship and stuff like that. As far as vocalizations go for the green sea turtle, underwater, they might produce like sounds that are equivalent to like a squeak or a pulse or a grunt for social cues, but not, no major vocalization. Baby turtles do vocalize inside their nest to help coordinate hatching. Very subtle sound, but that helps improve their survival chances. If they all
Mhm.
kind of go out there together, then there's a greater chance in numbers, right? Safety in numbers.
Well, one of the things is okay, this vast ocean, and when I was doing research with manatees back in Florida,
Hmm.
we were trying to design a project to see how they could find each other. Like, how do the males know the females in estrus ready to be bred?
Sure.
And we were trying to design a study to measure that because the ocean is so huge. We thought maybe pheromones, but then how do they detect pheromones in diluted water over miles?
Oh, well, yes, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, whenever we talk about some of these ocean creatures, a lot of times their numbers or pretty basic biology is often data deficient because, well, it's the ocean. It's hard to study. And then
Yeah,
you're talking about an
yeah.
animal, like we said, that swims thousands of miles away from its where it's born. So how do they make it back? Well, the Cliff Notes version is researchers don't fully know how male and female find each other when it is time to breed, but they suspect that both males and females will migrate back to their natal area from where they were
Okay.
hatched.
And
And
kind of
that's
bump
the
into each other, maybe. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So maybe there's some
Yeah.
pheromones involved once they're kind of in the
Mm-hmm.
same region that they don't
Mm-hmm.
know. But yes, it's a chance encounter in the fact that they do think that the males will head back to that area as well too. Now, how they know to go during that time of year, once again, all you budding researchers out there,
Mm.
there's tons of data we still need. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a big question, and
Hmm.
we spent hours
Sure.
trying in meetings trying to design a way, and we couldn't figure it out. We just
Yeah.
that were feasible, testable hypotheses. And so we we switched focus on like reproductive anatomy of the
Yeah.
manatee because we still didn't know a lot
Yeah.
about that. Like we didn't know
No,
the
it's
basics there.
well,
But
exactly. And that's where basics are an important stepping stone. And then you just want to keep building from there. But yeah, ocean creatures are hard to study.
yeah, yeah,
And they know how to hide from us very well.
yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
uh, but when male and female green sea turtle do find each other, the courtship will usually occur once again near the nesting beach where the female is going to haul out and lay her egg clutch. And so before nesting season, they're hanging out, and the male will typically approach the female. He'll circle her. He may climb or nibble on her neck or her flippers as part of the courtship behavior. Female green sea turtles, bless their hearts, they can be selective. So when we talk about skewed sex ratios, that could be a problem, right? If females in generally are a little bit more selective, if there's not that much male, not that many males, that could be problematic. But when the female is interested in breeding with the male, it can take several hours, and it will take place on the surface or underwater. So it does happen in the ocean. And research suggests too that a female will breed with multiple males if they're around and she likes them, and that she can store sperm. So that will help fertilize eggs over several months, which is also nice if there's not a lot of males around, or once again, it's hard to find each other. But basically, after mating, the female will then return to her natal beach where she was born and haul out and dig this hole in the sand. And these are really famous holes, like I said, because there's tons of researchers and community support groups and volunteers that are taking care and blocking off these nesting areas, at least along the coast of Florida, which is awesome. And I think in many other places as well, putting up signage, and people are respecting it. The female green sea turtle will dig this hole in the sand with her hind flippers, and there she'll deposit anywhere from 100 to 200 ping pong size balls per clutch. The nesting does usually occur at night, which is why I often see volunteers and researchers combing the beaches early in the morning. I like to get up early, and sometimes I'll walk or run on the beach. So you'll see them out there even a little bit before, right as the sun is rising or a little bit before, to try to find basically tracks in the sand that then lead to the clutch. And then that way they can uh, cordon off the clutch and keep it protected, and then log all about it. Uh, and of course, that too, from a female's point of view, that helps hide the eggs from predators, because eggs are yummy to certain predators, and we don't want that. The green sea turtle eggs will incubate in the sand for about 45 to 70 days, and nest temperature does determine the sex of the offspring. Remember, the warmer nest produces more females, which is what we're seeing more in global climate change.
Yep,
Cooler temperatures will make more males. So the mom green sea turtle, she lays her clutch that night and she leaves it. So there's really no parental influence at all from either dad or mom green sea turtle. And once again, after this 45 to 70 day egg incubation period of just basically being in the sand and growing, the hatchlings will emerge all together, or closely all together, at night. So they do prefer to hatch at nighttime, and they will instinctively, once again, just they're born with it, head towards the ocean, and that's usually going to be guided by the bright horizon, which is offshore. Now, as Chris mentioned earlier in the podcast, that's why these hotels and other houses along the beach where sea turtles are nesting, green sea turtles plus the other 6 species, you want to turn your night lights off, or your hotel room lights, or your pool lights, or whatever it is, because that can make the baby sea turtles go in the wrong direction instinctually and head more towards the road and the people than the beach. So that's why that practice is done in those areas, to keep it dark, which is nice too. Light pollution stinks, right? And it can harm these baby sea turtles. So, as Chris mentioned, not a lot of sea turtles make it to adulthood. But hopefully, if they can keep growing and stay alive, the juvenile sea turtles will spend their early years just in what's known as pelagic drift habitats. So they just kind of float around and they're feeding on plankton and, as Chris mentioned, other small animals before they get, before they start really eating the seagrass when they're adults. So yeah, it's a long life cycle and it's a hard one, and that's why us humans need to do everything, and the hatcheries and things like that need to do everything to support them.
And then when you look at the generation interval, out of all the sea turtles, this is the longest. 25 to 35 years is when they reach sexual maturity. Like, that's
Like, they have to stay alive
long,
that long. Yeah.
that long,
Yeah.
till they're able to reproduce.
Mhm.
That's what makes this story even that much more incredible, that they're bouncing back. Like, good job, humanity. Like, honestly, a lot of times we cover this podcast, it's not the best news. And
Right.
it does get us down. Like, Angie and I do get
Yeah.
down, but we do shine light on the hope. And this story
Mhm.
gives me so much hope, where last week or the week before I was talking about the Barrier Reef and how I took my kids and I was really disappointed, and like, just it was just a gut punch. Like, it was dead. It wasn't there. But I did see lots of green sea turtles. So that made me look more into this. And then all the news coming out that they've been delisted, that gives me so much hope. I know we're in for some tough times, around the planet with regards to wildlife and our ecosystems. But stories like this, working on the oceans with David Attenborough, like, watch that movie, look at the stories there. Talk to the people, the Whitley Award winners that Angie and I have talked to. We've got a huge lineup of guests coming up that people are out there fighting every single day. Even
Every
Coffee
day.
Watch, that
Yeah.
was totally different. That was more about humanity. I mean,
Mhm.
deforestation, but really, at least was talking about a lot of the
Yeah.
human suffering around
Well,
coffee,
and
and
you
it was
change. I
like,
mean, I listened to that
yeah,
podcast, and you changed
well,
how I buy coffee.
yeah, me
I
too.
look
I changed. I buy
shade
beans and
grown,
I use a plunger. Yep, organic, shade grown coffee.
fair trade. Yes.
Yep. That is changing the world. So good job. Good job. And I know there's 8 zillion sea turtle organizations.
There
We've
really
interviewed a few of
is.
them
Yes, yes. I mean,
doing,
once again, like, especially if you live in coastal areas where green sea turtles are known to nest, like myself, you can find local volunteer groups. Get out there, be part of a nest protection or an egg count. Just you don't have to even spend that much time. They'll probably let you pop down for a couple days here or there. So get involved. Send us your pictures. Tell us more if you've helped sea turtles before, or green sea turtles, so we can share it with our listeners. But yes, there's a lot of local grassroots, everyday people helping fight for the green sea turtles. So check that out in the region that you're from. But from a more global scale, I always love to give a shout out to the Sea Turtle Conservancy. They're one of the oldest dedicated sea turtle organizations, and they work through research, education, advocacy, and direct protection of sea turtles in the Caribbean, Atlantic, and Pacific. So that's a great one to check out. But you tell me which sea turtle conservation group you like, or local community that you work with, because there's so much that you can do if you besides supporting one of these larger entities. And if you can't get out there because of where you live, maybe you're landlocked or there just aren't nesting sea turtles in your area. Number one, reduce plastic waste. Like I said, a lot, especially these juvenile green sea turtles, are potentially consuming plastic, thinking that it's either a jellyfish, and then all the other species eat jellyfish. So we need less bags and bottles and straws and all of that nonsense, that garbage, out of our oceans. So you can do that. You can, the next time, if you do it, I would love to hear a message about it. The next time you're offered a plastic bag at your grocery store or at a to-go dinner and they offer you a bag, say, no, thanks, save the sea turtles. Trust me, it's pretty awesome. It's really empowering because they do look
Yeah.
at you like you're a little crazy. But if I was going to be crazy, I'm glad to be crazy for sea turtles. And we need more crazy people out there that want to fight for them. The other big one, too, is to avoid balloon release. So, like in my family, we don't really buy helium balloons or any balloons at all. In fact, it's kind of sad. Once in a while, my kids will get one from either a birthday party or something, and they play with it for hours. Like it's the most fun thing. And I'm obviously not totally anti-balloon, but I will say that that plastic has to end up in the trash. Like it cannot go into the
Yes.
waterways.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't do any balloon releases because they can drift in the ocean and they look like turtle food. Uh, if you go to the ocean regularly, please try to use ocean-friendly sunscreens. That helps our coral reefs. Minimize light pollution if you live on the coastal waterways. Chris, this is one of Chris's favorite topics. He's really good at talking about it, but just in general, support sustainable seafood. And there's lots of groups that'll help you figure out how that is. There's one called Seafood Watch. And then if you do get to the beach, keep it safe, keep it clean, pick up trash. Chris and I are always posting on social media when we just pick up trash whenever we go to the beaches. So lots of different things you can do. You can share this podcast. It's good news. It's hopeful. And when all of these little actions are combined with the bigger actions of the international collaborations and conservation heroes, big, huge conservation steps can be made. And the green sea turtle is our example of that today. For Jane Goodall, why we need to continue to hope and work hard.
Yep. Amen. That's a great podcast. Take care.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Save a sea turtle.